Hello everyone and welcome back to our continuing first impression review series on the Witchwood cards. We've got quite a few cards for you guys today. We've got 17 cards in total that we're going to be talking about, so let's get started. First up, rather appropriately, we have the Witching Hour. I almost said the Witching Hour, but same thing. It's a 3-mana druid spell. It's a rare and it reads, summon a random friendly beast that died this game. So, Pandemonia. What are the beasts that we currently have in Standard that really are going to be worth resummoning here?
For Druid, I think Hadronox is a beast if I'm correct.
Yeah.
There's that recruit guy, I cannot remember his name, the 8-mana 3/5 taunt, I think is a beast.
The Grizzly.
I think so. And then there's, I'm trying to think like the neutral the neutral beasts. You don't really want to put like, the name is the basic 3-mana 3/3 taunt.
Iron
Grizzly.
Ironwood?
The only the ones that jump out to me are sort of beasts like Hadronox and the taunt that recruits.
So would you say they need to be like big beasts, or that they need to be like very impactful on board? I mean, one of the biggest beasts, one of the biggest beasts we have available to us now is like Bittertide Hydra. I mean, you could resurrect a Bittertide Hydra with this. Maybe even a Quest Druid deck, right? Because it's one way to kind of get more minions out for your quest, if you're playing any beasts in that. But trying to put those two synergies together, I think, is probably a little bit too much.
The problem is, it's at the end it could cost 3 mana, right? So the problem is, if you want to be playing this on 3 mana... No, the question is, you never really want to be playing this on 3 mana, right? On turn 3, because what beast has realistically died by then?
Yeah.
Then the problem comes in is if you're playing it much later, then the pool of beasts is obviously severely diluted, right? Like you don't have a guarantee of pulling the beast you might actually need.
Unless you're kind of limiting the pool of cards you can kind of resurrect, right? I mean, that's kind of what we see in something like Big Priest these days.
Yeah.
It needs to be a deck where you can limit the pool, and what's nice about this is that it does have that tribal tag on, so that helps you limit the pool. The big question is, what beast is actually worth it? I mean, if it said dragon, we could easily find some big examples worth it. Malygos.
Tyranitus is a big beast, isn't it? Tyranitus?
Yeah. The other card I've heard mentioned is like Charged Devilsaur. So when resurrecting it with Witching Hour, that would allow you to still have a charge face. So you could have some kind of like Witching Hour cube druid, like we've seen before with the quest.
Yeah, the problem I really have with this, right, is you still need to have played these you need to have somehow got them into play. And so if you look at Cube Warlock, you've obviously got the cheating mechanism of Lucky Dark Pact.
Yeah, and the weapon.
Whereas, these beasts, how are you getting them into play? You still have to actually play Charged Devilsaur.
Yeah. That is a concern.
Is that really something you want to be doing? Or playing?
Yeah. And if you're doing that after you complete the quest, for instance, then it's not going to be necessarily worthwhile, because you're certainly paying more for the Witching Hour than you would pay for the Devilsaur itself. The big thing for me is, at least in the quest deck, if you have Charged Devilsaurs, you can resurrect them with Witching Hour to complete the quest as well if you need to. I think possibly a Q. That deck we saw is a little bit fringe, but that's kind of the one deck that sticks out for me with Witching Hour. It needs to be some deck that only plays a slim number of beasts, right?
There's no real beasts that have any amazing combo potential, right? It's not like where you could cheat out dragons, where you could pull some Malygos shenanigans, or
exactly.
there's no beasts that have any real big combos, right?
Yeah. So that kind of remains to be seen as to whether Witching Hour is really worth it. I think it's definitely a deck that leads itself to playing Witching Hour specifically rather than something that's going to slot in many Druid decks.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not a card that's just going to randomly. You're going to run it alongside any normal Druid, whatever Druid variant survives, shall we say?
Yeah. And speaking of beasts, though, there is one coming with the Witchwood that was released alongside Witching Hour, and that's Witchwood Grizzly. So now this is a 5 mana 3/12 beast. It's a rare and it has Taunt and a Battle Cry. Lose 1 health for each card in your opponent's hand. Now the way this works, just to clarify, is that the Witchwood Grizzly is the one that actually loses the health, and it doesn't come in to play damage, so you can't like heal it back up, let's say.
In order it comes into play as, so if your opponent has what's like 6 cards, it comes into play as a 5/6. No,
3/6. Yeah.
No, not damaged, and then that value, I'm assuming, does not change at any point.
No.
It's a once-off battle cry.
Yeah. I think you could silence it to get it back to a 3/12, but it would lose Taunt.
No, it doesn't, because if it enters...
Oh, maybe. I'm not actually sure about the silence.
Yeah, we'd have to find out, because like the fact that it's changing its base stats might mean silencing does nothing.
Yeah,
besides lose the Taunt. So that's an interesting action. I'd be curious to see. But I mean, 5 mana for 3/12 is obviously, pretty good. But then now, with these sort of cards, you've always got to ask yourself, okay, how many cards in your opponent's hand on average, and at what point does this become bad? So I mean, the 5 mana 3 attack, a Taunt. The first one that popped into my mind is Fen Creeper. So and we'll start with, I mean, that's basically the baseline of a 5 mana 3/6 Taunt. It's pretty bad. So for it to be playable or decent, you need to be anything above that, right? So 5/7 or above. So which means your opponent needs 5 or less cards in their hand.
Yeah.
And that's on turn 5. How often is that? I mean, if you're an aggro player, it's very possible.
Yeah, I mean, the other way is to try and kind of cheat this out such that the battle cry doesn't come into effect. And the best kind of way to do that is something like Master Oakheart, or if you're resummoning it with something like Witching Hour, then you're dodging the battle cry and you're still getting what is a pretty strong taunt. Is this really better than something like Ancient of War, though, where you're paying 7 mana now for a 5/10 guaranteed taunt over this 3/12, right? And with Druid, you'd argue costing extra mana is less of a, if we're comparing it specifically in Druid now, costing extra mana is less of a burden. I definitely think Witchwood Grizzly is a little bit more, resilient. There's other resurrect effects you could use. There's other ways to kind of cheat out the battle cry in other decks. But Witching Hour specifically is the one that makes me think of this, in Druid particularly.
Just even though you can obviously see they're trying to, the fact that they released them together, they're trying to promote, like they're trying to say, hey guys, look at these 2 cards, they work together.
Yeah.
I ultimately don't foresee this being in a Druid deck. If anything, I can see this possibly being an anti-aggro card in a variety of other classes. And maybe there might be synergies with resurrect effects, or I mean even in a fire effects, right? I mean like in a fire or Crazed Alchemist potential. There's those sort of combos as well. Yeah,
it does have some kind of combo with those cards, but ultimately I think to best utilize this, you need to find a way of cheating it out without the battle cry or resurrecting it afterwards. Overall, I'm not that sold. 3 attack for 5 mana is pretty weak, and the big question for me is just whether this would be reasonable to play in aggro decks like we saw with Tar Creeper for like kind of aggro mirrors. And with Witchwood Grizzly. With Witchwood Grizzly, importantly, it has a lot of competition for its slot. Tar Creeper doesn't a lot of the time. Witchwood Grizzly has like Bittertide Hydra that we mentioned already. It has Cobalt Scalebane. It has a lot more competition for the 5 slot than something like Tar Creeper. And Tar Creeper, these kind of taunts are more effective the earlier you get to play them, because the more they allow the rest of your board to snowball as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like you said, in an aggro deck, you really don't want a 3 attack minion on turn 5. It's exceptionally low impact. You rather, like you say, you rather play a bigger 5 drop, right? Just simply more stats, bigger effect.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so let's move on to the next card. Next up, we have the Hunter Legendary Emerus. This is a 10 mana 8/8 dragon, and it reads Battle Cry, double the attack and health of all minions in your hand.
Oh, this is just a meme card. My first reaction was meme, right?
Yeah, so Emerus, I mean, 10 mana 8/8, that's already pretty underwhelming. We see, Hunter has a 7 mana 9/9 that doesn't even see play, and that has somewhat of an impact on the board, at least preventing your opponents playing more good minions. Emerus here, no impact on the board, just buffing minions in your hand. Ultimately, this seems like a card that is definitely meant to have that late game value, right? Let's say you get some minions from your Deathstalker Rexar hero power, you build a bunch of zombies, and then you double their attack and their health with Emerus. Yay!
That's what the problem is. These cards immediately strike me as a term that I think came from Magic, a win more card. In the situations where you are playing Emerus on turn or after turn 10, and it is getting value on massive zombies, there's a good chance that you are probably winning that game because you are outvaluing them with zombies anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like, you weren't the result of the game wasn't changed, or you didn't swing the game because you played Emerus.
Yeah.
My immediate feeling is, this is, I mean, obviously, there's going to be memes, there's going to be, silly trolling videos possibly involving this card. But, like, from a competitive point of view, I don't think it actually does anything. It's not impactful enough on the game by itself
to
change the game.
King Crush for 16 damage.
That's cute, right? I mean, right? That's the meme dream.
Yeah. Ultimately, though,
you have to stay alive, right?
Yeah, and you have to put both of them in your deck. I'm not really seeing where Emerus works. Having the dragon tag helps a little bit, but there isn't really much of a way to make use of that in Hunter. The one thing I will say is I've been saying all along that I wasn't expecting to see many dragons in the Witchwood because woods and dragons doesn't really make sense. But I'm a little bit surprised to see a dragon in the form of Emerus, and maybe this means there will be other dragons. That's kind of the first thing I think of when I see Emerus, because honestly, I don't see this card in itself seeing play.
I was more surprised the fact that it was not just a dragon, but that it was a hunter dragon. Like,
yeah.
I was just like, this does not seem to fit flavor-wise, lore-wise.
Yeah, it does. No, it fits the flavor and the lore of Hunter Legendaries, which is to print bad ones.
Yeah, okay, in that regard. Like, super terribly bad ones.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next Hunter card, we have Dusk Raven Hunter. So this is another one of the kind of Worgen cards that flips. It's a 3 mana 2/5. It has stealth, it's a rare, and it reads each turn, this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. So, 3 mana 2/5 with stealth. How good is that? Let's just look at that side first.
So it's not that. It's basically it's strictly better carry and grab.
Not really, because carry and grab is a beast. This is not a beast.
It does not become a beast.
No, but it doesn't.
Don't know yet.
No. Worgens are not beasts. It becomes a Worgen. It will not be a beast. But also, this side, it's a human on Dusk Raven Hunter, so it's definitely not a beast.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's definitely not better than carry and grab strictly.
Right, okay, because I was about to say that that would make it, because you would have a guaranteed
buff
target.
Yeah, but you don't.
Then I realized that's not a beast. So 3 mana 2/5 stealth, it's not terrible considering you can then trade. You get to dictate the trades on the following turn, but then you get to trade into 3 and 4 drops, which I'm not sure if the 2 attack is good enough.
Yeah, I think as a 2/5 with no real synergy potential in something like Hunter, there's not really a lot of buffs for things that are not beasts. I don't really think Dusk Raven Hunter is particularly good there. Now, if we look at it on its flipped side as a 5/2 for stealth, with stealth, that really screams to me as Face Hunter card.
Yeah, especially, I mean, that's basically just Jungle Panther, but
on steroids, but not a beast.
No beast, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the important thing with Dusk Raven Hunter is it's also an odd card. So you can kind of fit it into the odd Face Hunter deck that people have talked about. With a lot of 1-drops, Duskgraven Hunter is kind of guaranteed 5 damage a lot of the time. There's not a lot of effects right now that will kill it. Actually, that's not strictly true. I mean, there's Hellfire Defile, Dustbreaker, Warpath, lol. And there's also a Consecration, of course. So there are actually quite a few effects that kill Duskgraven Hunter. But in a Face Hunter kind of aggressive deck, you're probably willing to take that risk.
And yeah, but I think it's just safe to say that the 3-mana 5/2 stealth is probably what you want most of the times over the 2/5.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I see it, right?
Even though I look at it as Face Hunter, I kind of think, wait, I'd just rather play Eaglehorn Bow on turn 3 every time. Because Eaglehorn Bow is 6 damage over the 2 turns. Duskgraven Hunter is unlikely to survive after attacking. And even then, it might not guarantee the damage. So
you can possibly trade up in terms of trading, but then, I mean, if you're playing in a Face Hunter, you probably don't want to be trading that much.
Yeah, as a 5/2, you're not wanting to trade it up, I don't think. I mean, even then, I'd rather also play Animal Companion most of the time on turn 3 over Duskgraven Hunter. So I think a big problem Duskgraven Hunter has is that fitting it in on turn 3 is kind of awkward. Maybe on turn 4 with the 1-drop. Yeah, Animal Companion, Bow, Kill Command even. Sometimes you launch a Kill Command to face early on. If you have...
Yeah, so...
Or 1-drop Hero Power, if you've upgraded your Hero Power, that might still be better.
It seems not bad, but I think it's just a case of there's just probably better options right now.
Yeah.
So...
The more I think about it, the less I like Duskgraven Hunter. I just don't see it being good. The swing in health is too much. I do like that they're putting stealth on one of these cards. But overall, I just don't think Duskgraven Hunter is going to really see much play at this point. But we'll have to wait until we see everything that comes out.
Cards, yeah, right. I mean, it's always the case with these things. I mean, who knows? This might be the next broken card of the set.
Yeah. Okay, next we have another Hunter card. This is an epic 4-mana 2/4, and it's Toxmonger. Whenever you play a 1-cost minion, give it Poisonous.
This is the token trash tier Hunter epic, I think. I do not see this card. I mean, so
it has cool art, right?
Yeah. The first thing comes to mind is possibly like it's semi-removal. If you play on turn 5, you play this plus Stone Tusk Boar, right? I mean, it's kind of what you could do. I mean, is that good enough?
Yeah, no. I mean,
you develop a 2/4 and you kill something for a card in your hand.
Yeah. So some people kind of theorize it with like Quest Hunter, and in fact you kind of mentioned that as well, and I just don't think Quest Hunter would ever play this. Why would you want a 4-mana 2/4 that doesn't help you win the game? Like, giving your minions Poisonous, sure, that can kind of help them trade up later in the game, but you're not playing a value game with Face Hunter. With Quest Hunter, you're going face. So, Face Hunter, Quest Hunter, those are the 2 places you would maybe play a lot of 1-drops. And in those 2 decks, Toxmonger is bad. Like, I just don't see Toxmonger being good. And if it's not good in that, I mean, Firefly? That's the one other playable 1-drop right now that, would get value with Toxmonger because you're getting extra 1-drops. And, I mean, that's just a no. Toxmonger's a no from me.
The problem, though, also, is that most of the 1-drops aren't very exact. They don't have a high health pool. So most of the times, a lot of hero powers can just deal with the 1-drops anyway, right? So first of all, you've spent 4 mana to play a 2/4, and then it's the possibility that the 1-drop Poisonous potentially does nothing. I mean, it could create some awkward turns, but I still don't think it's good enough in the 4-drop slot for a 4-mana 2/4.
I just think its stats are so understated as well. It could have been a 3/5 and it wouldn't have been overpowered, I don't think. But anyway, Toxmonger, nope. Next, we're moving on to Rogue, and we have Cheap Shot, a 2-mana Rogue spell. It's a common, and it has Echo, and deal 2 damage to a minion. So, dealing damage to minions for Rogue is pretty efficient. Like, we've seen quite a lot of ways to kill minions in Rogue over the last couple expansions. Vilespine Slayer being kind of chief amongst them. And we also have Eviscerate, which obviously can go face as well, and at bare minimum deals 2 damage. You can look at Cheap Shot as 4 mana guaranteed Eviscerate to a minion at least.
So it's very flexible, right?
It is.
That's obviously what it's got going for it.
But ultimately, I think it falls way short of the power curve for damage that Rogue would want. I think, with cards like Sap, I'd rather play Sap over this. I'd rather play Shiv over this in most of the current Miracle Rogue decks, because the Echo is not as valuable as just guaranteeing your card draw, let's say, earlier in the game to get to your other important cards. I mean, yes, after Gadget Zan, you can play repeatable cheap shots, but you need to kind of have Gadget Zan stick for a turn, and if Gadget Zan's sticking for a turn, guess what? You're winning.
Anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most of the times, if Gadget Zan isn't dying, you're usually in a very good spot.
Yeah. Like, if Cheap Shots had Head Crack's ability, where it could come back to your hand on the combo to dealing damage to a minion, that would be really good.
That would be disgustingly good, I think.
Yeah.
But, the reason
even if that was end of the turn, so you could only ever do it once a turn. But anyway, yes, that would be probably way too good as well. But yeah, at Echo, I don't really think Cheap Shot is particularly great. I don't see it fitting into Miracle Rogue. I don't see it fitting into Tempo Rogue because Keleseth.
I don't think it has a place really, I think.
Yeah. Next up, we have Cursed Castaway, a 6 mana, 5/3 pirate minion for Rogue. It's a rare. It has Rush and Death Rattle. Draw a combo card from your deck. So when I looked at this card at first, I was like, cool. Rush and Death Rattle together, that's kind of cool. You can kind of get your Death Rattle immediately if you choose to trade like that. And draw a combo card from your deck, that's really awesome. That's a cool thing I'd like to see in Rogue a lot more often. But 6 mana for a 5/3, yeah, that's a no for me.
Basically, it's 6 mana to deal 5 damage. I mean,
and 5 damage to a minion.
It's basically like a Starfire that can only hit a minion.
Yeah, and I mean, we were just talking about how Rogue has so many ways to deal damage to minions. This is kind of another way, and it's not a very good way.
Unless a combo minion, the combo card is like a key combo piece, right? So I suppose, if you fetch cards like Eviscerate, or Minstrel, it's just
Vilespine.
Value, right? There's a lot of value potential.
Cold Blood.
Yeah.
Those, but there isn't really any kind of maybe for Cold Blood combos, maybe you could somehow make this work. If there's some OTK deck that can make Cursed Castaway work, then where you're kind of tutoring that specific combo card that can be part of it out of your
6
lethal
mana
combo.
to search for a card, but
at that rate I would do it, but I don't. If you could draw a combo piece, not a combo card, for an actual OTK combo, it might work. But Cursed Castaway, I just at 5/3, it's just not going to stick often enough. And I don't think getting that combo card immediately is going to be worth it. And because it is a minion, not a spell, you can't prep it. If it was a spell that dealt 5 damage, it would just be a lot better in Rogue and probably a lot more interesting. Yeah. Rogue does need good minions right now. It's very heavily reliant on Felderai Strider. But Rogue spells are really where the interesting things are at a lot of the time for Rogue because of preparation.
But I think you can kind of see a little bit. I think the design team is starting to get a little bit scared in terms of the Rogue cards. I think.
But they always print.
They basically everything comes in the back of the mind of, okay, how does this work with prep? Does prep break this card?
I think the design team are just overly scared of Rogue because they remember old Miracle Rogue back in the day, 5 mana gadgets and 4 mana Leroy.
Oh yes, the good old days.
Back in that day. And ultimately, this card, it's kind of interesting in its design, but just underpowered. And they've kind of they've kind of made a lot of Rogue decks, a lot of Rogue cards very underpowered because they seem kind of scared of the glass. So I don't know. Let's see where it goes. There's still quite a lot more Rogue cards to come, but Cursed Castaway is going to be a bit of a throwaway card, I think. Next up, we have a card that's probably not going to be that bad. It's Cathedral Gargoyle. It's 2 mana, 2/2, epic paladin card. It has Battle Cry. If you're holding a dragon, gain Taunt and Divine Shield. Also, shout out to Ahirun, who was the one that actually revealed this card. Great person to follow on Twitter if you want to see the freshest deck lists and what people are succeeding with at Legend. So, shout out to him. And Cathedral Gargoyle. I mean, shielded minibot with Taunt. If you're holding a dragon.
What beats Righteous Protector, really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this definitely is trying to push a Dragon Paladin sort of deck. I mean, we have seen Dragon Paladins. Dragon Paladin was a fringe deck about a couple of years ago.
Yeah, when Dragon Consort was a card that could reduce dragons.
Consort, Dragon Priest was Dragon Paladin was kind of a thing. It never really took off.
Yeah, okay. So what are the dragons that we would maybe want? Maybe if we're looking at a mid-range Paladin deck, because a lot of the dragons come in at the more expensive slots, we could be looking at stuff like Scalebane, Onyxia, Deathwing. Those have kind of seen play previously in some of the mid-range Murloc Paladin decks, but that was largely before Call to Arms, and we'll get to Call to Arms with this card in a sec. But let's look at some of the other. Ysera, I think, is way too slow for any mid-range Paladin deck. I don't really think Ysera comes into the equation.
That outplaying Templars, that rotating out.
I think so. Yeah.
Because a lot of the Dragon synergies rotating out, which is also a bit of an unfortunate one.
We do have the Amalgam coming in.
I suppose, yeah.
This
Amalgam is not that bad, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a shielded minibot into Spider Tank.
Wow, just like old times.
Yeah.
By itself, in a vacuum, a 2 mana, 2 Divine Shield Taunt is very powerful.
Yeah.
But then it comes into a case of the building restrictions that come into play with this. Obviously, it's the dragon synergy, and then obviously, as you were alluding to a little bit earlier, the fact that Call to Arms.
Yeah.
This the card is good, but you probably still in this deck you will probably still want Call to Arms, and then Call to Arms always has a chance of putting this bad boy, which is just then a solid 2 mana 2/2.
Yeah, so the thing is, if you're playing this card, you have to be playing Paladin, right? And if you're playing Paladin, you basically have to be playing Call to Arms. There is no viable Paladin deck right now that does not play Call to Arms. That includes OTK control Paladins will even play Call to Arms, because that's how good it is. Now, in this context, pulling Cathedral Gargoyle from Call to Arms is pretty bad, but I think that's a good design from them in order to ensure that this card wasn't nuts pulled from... if this was shielded minibot, it would just be nuts from Call to Arms. Way too nuts.
It'd break the game probably, right?
Yeah, so I think it could lead to a much more interesting mid-range Paladin. Call to Arms still a very key card in the deck, I imagine. With Vilefin Inquisitor rotating out, it's going to be a little bit trickier for Murloc Paladins to get off to the really steamrolly starts, so maybe we see something else coming in. The big question is just what other mid-rangey minions are really good for Paladin right now, and that's kind of where I worry for Cathedral Gargoyle. I definitely think it's going to be a good card, maybe not immediately now, maybe even in the future if we don't have enough support for mid-range Paladin.
The first one's Twilight Drake, Cobalt Scalebane.
Is Twilight Drake... Twilight Drake has never been good enough to play in mid-range Paladin, really.
Yeah. Bookworm is going out. You've got Bone Drake.
I think it's largely like Onyxia, right? That's one of the...
Primordial Drake, in a sort of a slower shell.
But there's no... You're losing Curator, which hurts a lot for pulling the dragon.
And you've got North Dormutek, right?
Haha. Look, Cathedral Gargoyle is exceptionally strong. I think it is a very good card. And I definitely think it will see play and it will be very strong at some point. Just when that right amount of dragon synergy is there and that deck for mid-range Paladin is there is the question. But I think Cathedral Gargoyle is a very strong card. And thank you for at least putting the good parts on the battle cry so that Call to Arms doesn't get even sillier. Call to Arms is a card that I imagine will get nerfed before it rotates out, because it is actually just too silly in how its design restrictions are affecting Paladin, in my opinion.
Yeah, The thing is, though, like you think back to when the Dragon Paladin was a thing. I mean, there we had Twilight Guardians as well, and the deck was not even that good. So, like, they are gonna either in this set or in the next, like the very soon set, there are gonna be need to be some insane either neutral dragons or class specific Paladin dragons that are going to need to make the deck like. Like Dustbreaker, Declan operative level, power level.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I mean.
if we look at the Dragons Matters cards, Cathedral Gargoyle is probably the second best in the game right now after this releases from what we know, right? The best being Dustbreaker still, because Dustbreaker is a dragon, and that matters a lot for the Dragons Matters deck.
It can turn itself on, and also it turns other, like, you could draw
other Dragons Matters. Yeah. That makes a big difference, and I mean, arguably its effect is stronger than Cathedral Gargoyle, although Shield Minibot is not to be underestimated.
I mean, on board, it just obviously it contests quite effectively.
Yeah, I think the key where I'm getting here is what's really made a class good for dragons has been the Dragons Matter cards for that class, like Alexstras's Champion for Warrior, and the weapons, they synergized well with the kind of tempo game plan that the Tempo Dragon Warriors had back then. And for Priest, it's obviously been Dustbreaker, Draconid Operative, Nether Spitus. No, what's it? What was the 2/4? What was the 2/4? I can't remember its name.
Twilight Acolyte.
No. The 2/4, the one that had taunt.
What the old one? Wormrest Agent.
Wormrest Agent, yes, that one. Yeah,
back to that. That's what made the deck playable, bro.
Yeah. So Cathedral Gargoyle is definitely something that could push Dragon Paladin. As you said, it's not something we've really seen be viable pretty much ever. But yeah,
it's a strong card. You just need more good dragons.
Yeah, whether we can make that deck work is really the big question. Next we have Sound the Bells, another Paladin card. It's a 2-mana Paladin spell. It's a common, and it has Echo once again, and it reads give a minion +1/+2. So Divine Spirit with Echo basically for 1 extra mana.
Oh.
So pretty much like we saw with Warpath, that was Whirlwind for 1 extra mana that had Echo. This is Divine Spirit.
I mean, they're obviously trying to. I mean, the buff mechanic. I mean, 2 mana for +1/+2 is not good, right? I mean, we can start out vanilla 1/2 stats for 2 mana is not good. The fact that it has
4 mana +2/+4, well, that's worse than Blessing of Kings.
Yeah, I mean, then you go, okay, I probably don't want that.
6 mana +3/+6, that's worse than Spike Ridge Steed.
Yeah, it's probably.
8 mana, that's worse than Dino-Size. I don't even need to know. Like 8 mana 4/+8, that's probably worse than Dino-Size most of the time.
Yeah, all the time. So, I mean, basically, there's no options. Although, on the bright side, what this does mean is you can split it, right?
Yes, that's the important part.
The main thing is, let's say you have in your 4, you can buff 4 different minions, right?
Yes.
I mean, that is the versatility. But so this is the kind of card I could see. I'm not a big arena player, but I could easily see this card being not bad in arena.
Sure.
Because of its like late game potential.
I feel like we can say that about most Echo cards, though.
Yeah, the fact that you can just generate the value. But I would not say it's a good card. Enchantment. Buffs always have that risk of putting yourself at card disadvantage. Because the whole point is, if let's say you buffed
this
1 minion with it.
Yeah. Go on.
If you buff 1 minion with it, and they kill, and they kill your minion, you've used your minion and this card. So you used 2 cards, where you would have only used 1.
Yeah.
So you never want to play this obviously just by itself, and then every additional one, it's just doesn't impact the game sufficiently.
Yeah. I mean, this does mitigate that in the sense that it allows you to split the buff, as you mentioned, which is pretty important. But if I'm paying 6 mana to give +1/+2 to 3 minions, I'm not really happy with that. Quest Paladin is kind of the one place we maybe look at this, right? I mean,
I was scared of that, but
so.
I was like, probably not still though, right? You probably still don't want to play. I mean,
you can play this on the Murloc and get back the buff.
On it. Like, let's say you echoed this like 5 times.
Okay.
Linessa then get
probably
5 times the buff.
I think so. because it
that,
counts as...
that will make it marginally better. I don't know if it makes it playable, but I mean...
Yeah, it is a little bit better with Lunessa. Sound the Bells, I don't really think, unless we can see some more synergies for
this
it.
This is very, very clever. Like, this is a card that almost strikes to me as like a trap for newer players.
Yeah. Although I do think it's a bit of a trap to kind of analyze as well, because we really haven't seen the Echo mechanic in play. We've had no hands-on with the Echo mechanic, other than maybe Unstable Evolution, I suppose. And it's very difficult to kind of say how good Echo is. I mean, +1/+2 is often better than Evolving, except that it doesn't heal.
And
so I don't know.
No death medals or effects. It keeps the same persistent effects.
Yeah. I don't know. Ultimately, I sound the bells. What struggles for me is actually fitting this into any kind of paladin decks right now, and that's what rings an alarm bell for not seeing this card not seeing play.
Oh god. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. We have our first priest card for tonight. There's quite a few. We have Lady in White. Lady in White's a 6-mana 5/5 legendary minion with Battle Cry. Cast Inner Fire on every minion in your deck. I know you're very excited about this, right?
I would say this is like sort of the legendary kind of like of all the cards, it's the one that kind of makes me turn around and go, oh, okay, this looks like this is potential. I mean.
You want to play those Oasis Snapjaws as 4-mana 7/7s in the late game.
Exactly. You play Wax Elementals even as 1-mana 2/2 with Divine Shield and Taunt.
I'm not playing Wax Elemental to play Lady in White.
I mean,
no.
Shield Bearer, right? Becomes a 1-mana 4/4.
Sure.
I mean, it's one of these things of is it worth running this card and then building a deck that the whole strategy revolves around it, because you're probably putting in weak cards. I mean, if you put in Mogish and Warden, you're probably not happy putting that card into your deck normally, but it only works obviously with the synergy.
Yep, I think it's definitely not a card that like. Okay, so cards that affect every minion in a deck, we've seen that a little bit in something like Keleseth, and this is in no way comparable to me because it's coming down 4 turns later. When Keleseth comes down, even on turn 3 and turn 4, we're kind of in the land of, I don't know if the buff's worth it anymore, right? And Lady in White is no buff to health, so that means that the minions are not going to be better at trading. So you need to put minions that are already kind of skewed to make the buff worth it. And that means if you draw Lady in White late in the deck, your deck is just doing nothing good. If you draw, and every card you draw up until turn 6 is a bad minion, basically a lot of the time. So you need to find a way to put enough good minions in the deck to make the offsets work, and then you probably have to play it in some kind of Divine Spirit Inner Fire deck, right? And Lady in White is just something that allows you to fight for the board, so you can eventually get off your Divine Spirit Inner Fire combo.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I see it.
I like the design. I'm curious what the animation will be, but I really, I don't. It's not combat. I mean, just trying to play a normal combat piece might just be better. I mean, do you ever just play this as a potential? It makes your normal strike clerics 3/3s, right? Yeah,
but in the late game, it's like all the stat buffs are nowhere near as impactful, I feel. So. I'm not so sold on Lady in White, although its effect is pretty interesting. And as you say, it explores an interesting design space. Next we have Coffin Crasher. It's 6-mana, 6/5 priest minion. It's a rare, and it has Death Rattle. Summon a Death Rattle minion from your hand. So 6 mana to put your Bone Drake into play.
I mean, this reminds me a little bit of what's that? There's that cool Dynamancer, the Warlock card. I mean, that's a 6. But that's with it summons one if you discard from your hand.
Yeah, it's a little bit more like Cobalt Illusionist, which is the 4-mana 3/3 rogue that gives you a 1/1 copy of a card from your hand. The difference here is it's a narrower pool that you can set it up to pull from.
Deathwing is still in the game, isn't it?
Dragon Lord, no.
Yeah,
Dragon Lord is rotating, I think.
So I was like, that's a big dragon that you might want to try to play, right?
Dragon Lord was Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Deathwing Dragon Lord.
But Coffin Crash, I mean, it's nice. It kind of mitigates its tempo loss and its poor stats by putting a minion straight on the board. It's almost piloted Shredder-esque, except that you have to have the minion in your hand in order to actually make it work, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so I think it might have some potential. It's obviously very difficult to assess now. I think like the synergies and things, but like a 6-mana 6/5 is not the worst stats.
Yep.
And then obviously the Death Rattle, like you say, it allows it to replace itself with a Death Rattle. So now the problem is if you're trying to play a Death Rattle, let's say Priest, do you the thing is, do you want to have to include cards like Loot Hoarder? Assuming though by turn 6 you've probably thrown out your Loot Hoarder, so this is only probably summoning something pretty sizable, right?
Violet Worm. That's like the big good death rattle in the game right now, right? But it's not something you're really gonna want to put in your deck so much.
Yeah, I mean, especially Obsidian Statues still in the meta.
Obsidian Statues, yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good one to pull with Coffin Crasher.
That's a death rattle. So maybe, I mean, this could basically be the lackey of Priest, right?
Yeah, except that it has to be in your hand, which is definitely worse.
Which combines, I mean, it's like the weapon. It's like a combination of the weapon meets the lackey, right?
Yeah.
So we'll
it's
see.
definitely
This
got
card
better
does
stats
have
than
potential,
lackey.
right? This is the kind of card that does look like it could be very good.
Yeah, I do like Coffin Crasher. I think you just have to have enough death rattles that there's good ones to pull from your hand. You could steal a Void Lord and then pull a Void Lord from your hand with Coffin Crasher.
Living the dream. Dipping his dreams.
Although there's no more Draconid Operatives, so it's going to have to be Curious Glimmerroot to steal the Void Lord, which is definitely a lower chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Coffin Crasher definitely does seem like it has some potential. Just finding the right synergies to go with it is going to be the trick. But it's definitely something that's going to be interesting to test out in deck building. Next we have Chameleos. This is probably one of the most interesting cards we've seen so far. It's a legendary for Priest. So we have both the Priest legendaries, Lady in White and Chameleos. Chameleos is a 1-mana 1/1 beast. It's a legendary, as I mentioned, and it has each turn, this is in your hand, transform it into a card your opponent is holding. So the interesting part of this is that it's giving you information about your opponent's hand, which is pretty much the first time we're seeing this kind of mechanic find its way into Hearthstone.
Yeah, I mean, the part of the mechanic does borrow from, I don't know if you remember Molten Blade, and even Shifting Scroll from a Mage, where it's randomly, changes each turn.
And Shift the Zeros.
I mean, the chances are you'll literally just be keeping this card in your hand, right? So,
Yeah.
the whole point is you basically sacrifice a card and a turn to play, 1 minute to play it, just for, or not to play it. I mean, you just hold it in your hand, basically, just to get the value. You don't really play it as a 1-mana 1/1, right?
It's not the value, it's the information, right?
Yeah, it's information. And you can also play it then, right? I mean, you can randomly get a Death Knight and then play it.
Yes, this is a card that is better in better players' hands. That's 100% the case, right? It's a card that definitely rewards skill because it's a large element of when do I want to give up the informational advantage I have here in order to play the good card, right? Whether that good card is a Death Knight, whether it's Void Lord, whether it's just any high value card like Lich King, anything that's impactful like that, or even just a good spell, a Fireball for maybe removal.
Yeah, it might make, I think, it's doing the whole Priest steal, it's going with that whole stealing vibe, right?
But it's a very different take on that because
take on it.
You get to see a card in your opponent's hand. I feel like there's a lot of times I would put Chameleos in my deck.
Yeah.
The big trick is it is a very dead draw if you ever draw it with nothing else in your hand. So it's something you want to put in a deck where you're going to have other resources available to you. So it kind of screams a Control Priest card to me, rather than something like maybe Spiteful Priest, where you might be looking to top deck a little bit more.
Then sort of my question then is this the kind of card you want to keep in your if you get another mulligan, do you want to keep it?
Yes.
You just keep it so that from turn 1 you just know, each turn you learn a new card.
As Control Priest, yes. Especially if you have Nullshire Cleric in hand as well, you'll always keep it. Because Cleric is the card you want. Against an aggro deck, you might not keep it.
Yeah, I mean, because what you'll know that they have a lot of stuff that has like gonna go hit your face.
Yeah, although against an aggro deck, you'd be getting other cards that are good for aggro, right? So you'd be getting ways to impact the board. So against aggro decks, you're getting cards you can play most of the time. Against control decks, you could get removal, you could get resources. So I think it helps you match up very well against the kind of decks you're going to be facing. Yeah, it'll be very interesting when you.
Helios is probably one of the cards I like the most.
Yeah,
Not to mention the cute artwork, I think.
Yeah, I think one thing that's going to be very interesting to see is when somebody Chameleos is a Chameleos. And then they know that their opponent now knows cards about their hand, and it's also gonna change the way we look at which is the correct card to play, the one you just drew or the one you had in your hand. Now the answer against Priest is almost always gonna be the one you had in your hand, because
I want to see it.
Yeah, because you can remove their possible information advantage. So that's another interesting thing to remember playing against Priest. So I really like this card and the way it designs itself around skill.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a lot of next level reads and sort of now playing around what they're playing around, because it's gonna be that if at some point you realize let's say it becomes popular, you accept that a certain card in their hand is Chameleos, so then it's a case of you have to play around them playing around a card in your hand.
And them possibly having cards in your hand. So I mean, I think being able to identify when your opponent has Chameleos in hand, it will be a big boon to the kind of plays you can make and optimizing your lines like that. But it's going to be definitely a difficult card to make a read on a lot of the time. Because I think the good players are not going to just hold Chameleos for the whole game, right? Unless it's like some really slow control mirror.
At some point you could play it because the card that it changes to is good, right?
Yeah,
like
it's good in that situation.
Whether it's removal, whether it's just a big minion. At some point you're going to go, wait, that card information's not really worth, I'm just going to play a 6/6 or a 7/7 or,
And as something like Control Priest, it really helps you to use your tools well in order to make sure you can kind of maximize the value of your removal spells. So I think Chameleos is definitely a good card in kind of Control Priest. You know that if they're holding, let's say, a Bittertide Hydra, you're not going to Shadow Word Death their what was that? That 5/2 stealth. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, I really like Chameleos and its design. Next we have a card that I know you're a massive fan of. Black Howl Gunspire. This is a 7 mana 3/8 legendary warrior minion. I mean, the reason I say that is it's a gun tower, which is the first time we are seeing a building as a minion in Hearthstone. In fact, the first time we're seeing basically an inanimate object in a way. I mean, a tower's it's got people in it. Anyway, or maybe it doesn't. It's actually difficult to say at this point. Anyway, what it does is it can't attack, and whenever this minion takes damage, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. So 7 mana 3/8, can't attack. Whenever this minion deals damage, whenever this minion takes damage, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. So the idea here is to whirlwind it 8 times and kill your opponent's board a bunch of times. And do some damage. I think it's important that this is a random enemy, so it can hit face, which is important because sometimes you kind of just want it to clear the board.
Yeah, the thing is, for me, 7 mana 3/8, severely understated. Can't attack. It doesn't have taunt, so taunt would have obviously, I think, might have made it quite good, decent.
In many ways, it's like a 7 mana 6/8 though, because unless they remove it with something like Vile Spine or something like that, in which case the attack didn't really matter anyway. It will deal 3 damage. So I think it's kind of more fair to almost call it a 7 mana 6/8. And if you look at it, the difference is that damage can be split across things possibly and even go face. Yeah. And when this damage goes face, I think it's generally pretty bad.
Our problem is just if you're playing this, if you play this on turn 7, you're doing nothing the whole of your turn 7, right?
Yeah.
You're playing this, and then so the Whirlwind effect, you have obviously Warpath, you have Whirlwind, and you have the oldie of Inner Rage, And so now, it comes down to now, is it worth, let's say the turn, or wait till turn 8, playing this, and then say Whirlwind. Is that worth it? I mean, you deal 1 damage across, and 3 damage to an extra thing. So almost like a swipe, but like you have to run cards that you're not really sure if you would run. I mean, Witchwood hasn't seen much play for quite a while. Okay, when Warrior has seen play.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is you can consider it with Blood Razor, because that's something you can set up prior, so something you can actually do on that turn. So I mean that's another kind of consideration for it.
The fact that it doesn't interact with the board in any way, your opponent, if let's say they're ahead, they can just ignore it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Taunt would have made it, I think, pretty solid.
Yeah, Taunt would have made it very solid. Whether Taunt would have made sense for a tower, I am not entirely sure. But if you consider it like a wall in a way, then Taunt makes sense. But anyway,
you have to go through it, right?
Yeah, but this is not just a wall; it's a tower on the wall. Anyway, you did mention Inner Rage. I would like to point out that if you Dead Man's Hand yourself 8 Inner Rages, you can Inner Rage on this 8 times in order to deal 24 damage, and that's pretty bad. So don't do that. But I just had to mention it. It was the one way you can make it deal 24 damage on turn 7.
Yeah.
Good meme.
It's very, very limited and lots of RNG there.
Yeah, it's a good meme. Next, we move on to Deadly Arsenal. This is a warrior spell. It's an epic. It's 6 mana, and it reads: reveal a weapon from your deck. Deal its attack to all minions. So very reminiscent of Dragon's Fury.
Yeah, it's basically a sort of more specific Dragon's Fury. I mean, so it's a warrior specific with weapons. I mean,
Which
6
makes sense.
mana. How much damage damage do you want to be dealing to all minions for 6 mana?
I think 5 and above is possible.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want 2 mana. You probably don't want only 3. I mean,
So-
4 or above probably.
Yeah, a lot of your early game weapons are out then as a result.
Yeah,
you don't want to
that's
be
the
playing
thing, you don't
Fiery
wanna play
War
Fiery
Axe.
War Axe.
You don't want to play Blood Razor. Now that's a kind of a cost.
It's not bad. I mean, 6 mana deal 4 damage is not that bad.
Blood Razor is 2 attack.
Oh, right,
6
it's
mana
attack,
deal
not
2.
costs. Oh, sorry, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So it's
Yeah,
attack,
no.
not cost. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well,
Blood
I mean,
Razor is kind of
yeah.
out. War Axe is kind of out. We're saying 5 damage is kind of where you want to be. So you can't play bladed. You can't play bladed Gauntlet because that's 0 mana
Ooh, yeah,
or 0
which is,
damage.
I mean, Gorehowl and Arclight Reap are the main ones, right? That you would consider.
Yeah.
you'd want-
Gorehowl is the one. That's the one that's really meant to synergize here with Deadly Arsenal, I believe, because at 3 damage you wouldn't want to do it because you could just play Warpath 3 times.
Yeah.
So
And you
I
also
think
gotta remember, on turn 5, you still have Brawl.
yeah, I think what's interesting is they definitely wanted to not put this in the same turn as Brawl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't want that.
And by making it even card, they are kind of cutting it out of the odd warrior, control warrior archetype, which I think is going to disappoint some players, such as yourself, and
Yeah.
that and Warpath kind of being cut out of
I mean,
that.
It's the question is if this is a card that you still really want. You want in addition to Brawl, and I'm not 100% sure.
Well, with Sleep with the Fishes going away, it might be.
Yeah.
But the question is, how many weapons can you run and it still be reasonable, right? I think to run 2 Deadly Arsenals, you need to run at least 3 weapons to risk the second Deadly Arsenal not being dead. Deadly Arsenal is something you would always use above or before Brawl. You can always Dead Man's Hand yourself back a weapon into your deck to make the Deadly Arsenals playable.
I mean, that's like late game shenanigans.
But if you think about it, if you're Dead Man's Handing yourself a Gorehowl into the deck, you can Deadly Arsenal and keep dealing a lot of damage to boards, because at that point you're probably Dead Man's Handing yourself a Deadly Arsenal back into your deck too.
I mean, you get the sort of I would say soft lock in a way, with the where basically you can just keep clearing the board, and then keep the weapon in the deck. I mean, and then it's possible that you get a semi decent clear.
Yeah, I mean you can kind of Gorehowl, and Gorehowl is a pretty powerful weapon. It's just not really had enough of a reason to be played in Warrior. So I think I really like Deadly Arsenal. I definitely think there's going to be a place for it in a more traditional Control Warrior.
Yay.
whether that's now and whether that's Control Warrior is good enough at the release of the Witchwood is going to be the debate. But it's definitely a powerful card, I believe. Might just need one more weapon to make it work. Because I don't really think you want to play Arcanite Reaper as that third weapon. So maybe it's a 1 Deadly Arsenal, 2 Gorehowl deck. That's kind of how I see it. I think you need to run at least 1 plus the number of Deadly Arsenals you're running.
Okay.
That's kind of how I see it, at least. Moving on, we have a warrior card, another one. It's another legendary minion. This is Darius Crowley. It's a 5 mana 4/4 with Rush. And after this attacks and kills a minion, gain +2/+2. So Darius here definitely fitting into this Rush kind of tempo archetype they're trying to push here for warrior. And I think it's pretty good, right? If you
the mini boogie monster.
Yeah, and I think importantly, when Darius actually can kind of remove a smaller minion and then grow, one of the few minions that's actually gaining health after the rush, right? So if he picks off a small thing, he can get quite big, and then, as you say, it can grow, beyond that, like a boogie monster, because that turn is kind of, or that effect is repeatable every time Darius trades. He'll keep growing until eventually he dies. So if you can find ways to protect Darius, it can be very, very powerful. But it's not like Warrior has heal.
After the first hit, let's say it becomes 6/6. I mean, if
6x whatever.
6x. Okay, 6x. Whereas what I'm saying is, let's say the maximum is 6. If you've been down, I mean, let's say the minion attack is probably, I mean, at best case it's got a 1 or 2 attack. So
it's 1, 2, or 3. If it actually, the other interesting thing is if it is a 4 attack minion and Darius kills it, does it gain or does it die? I'm not actually sure about that.
Say again? When?
So if Darius kills a 4/4 minion, will Darius be alive as a 6/2 or will Darius die?
What do you mean?
So if Darius kills something, but that also deals 4 damage to him.
Oh, right. You'd probably go to 0 and then you'd get the buff because it did kill something.
Is that how it works? I mean, that's kind of how it works with something like Finja before, back when War Leader buffed health. So that's how I imagine how it would work. And then it seems a bit better too, because you can kind of imagine it dealing up to 4 damage, or killing something that's up to 4 attack and surviving. Or even 5 attack, right? Because it would still survive on 1 HP.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. Like the rush effect does seem like it has great potential clearing the board. But I mean, I think this has also drawn quite a lot of hype, though. Yeah.
I think that this Tempo Warrior is definitely something that's going to be quite interesting. I mean, this is the big thing for me is that this is kind of part of a large series of cards where they're trying to push this Tempo Warrior archetype.
Yeah, they really don't like the fact that they miss Warrior. They don't want to see really Control Warrior or like Patron Warrior. I mean, they don't want to see something like that. So, like, they're trying to create. I mean, because even when we did have Tempo Warrior, it was. I don't think, if I remember correctly, it wasn't super dominant and oppressive.
Yeah, it was back in the like Dragon Tempo Warrior kind of days.
So we'll see what I mean.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a card that kind of fits well with this, and another card that I think is pretty exciting for Tempo Warrior, and that is Woodcutter's Axe. So this is a 2 mana 2/2 weapon. It's a common. It has Death Rattle. Give a random friendly minion with Rush +2/+1. So first of all, props to us for calling that Woodcutter's Axe would be a weapon. We got that one right when looking at this reveal.
Yeah, that was so difficult to work out. Right?
We're getting the low-hanging fruit with our Woodcutter's Axe. And so giving a minion a buff on a weapon, that's proven relatively powerful before. The big question is whether this kind of slim pool of minions is worth it. I mean, we've seen it a little bit with what was the weapon in Shaman that buffed mechs?
Power Mace.
Power Mace, yes. I mean, this is a little similar to that in a way, except, buffing rush minions. It would be interesting to see if it was the other way around as well, buffing their health maybe more, because that's where they really suffer, taking damage when trading.
Yeah, so that might be, but the problem is then it might be a bit too strong.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
At the end of the day, 2-mana 2/2 weapon. I mean, a lot of the times you would probably even end up using the charges without actually getting the ability right. You like, it's one of those, the places you'd want to get this. It would be like the minions would be very what's the word? Oh, I think I got myself confused.
You mean, you want to use this
You
to
might just play the
facilitate
weapon
trades?
without the buff, like is what I'm saying.
Yes,
Like
sure.
it's not horrifically bad if you play it, attack, and then it's a slightly weaker Stormforged axe. Let's say you don't have the rush minion to combo. That's the main issue, right? Is if you can combo this reliably when the weapon dies.
Yeah, I think in kind of board-centric mirrors, Woodcutter's Axe will be very strong. We've seen traditionally these 2-mana 2/2 weapons when they have some other kind of effect have been strong. Glaive Zuka, if we look back, there was a very strong weapon, that buffed a minion as well. That was really powerful. Woodcutter's Axe, importantly, only buffs minions with the rush, so they can't go face immediately.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The rush thing is what's kind of making me a bit skeptical there.
Yeah.
It's like the dream is obviously you hit play this turn 2, then the final hit on turn 4, where you play the militia commander, right? That's kind of like sort of the dream curve, if you will.
Yeah, Militia Commander works pretty well with it. It even doesn't work so badly with the Wasp, which is definitely, I'd rather play Woodcutter's Axe over the Wasp on turn 2 at least. Playing the Wasp afterwards
the Wasp is 3 mana though, isn't it?
No, it's a 2-mana 1/3 with Rush.
Oh, you're talking about that Wasp? Oh,
yeah, the Enrage one.
I thought you were talking about the Giant Wasp, the stealth one.
No. I mean, that doesn't have Rush, so that's not really relevant. Yeah, so I mean... Woodcutter's Axe, I think it is very, very powerful. Like, I think it's one of the main cards that will push this kind of tempo warrior. I think, as you say, even if you don't get the buff, it's not that big a loss. I think it's definitely something that is going to be pretty powerful. It's a little bit more like Jade Claws in, let's say, a deck where you're not really going for the Jade synergy so much. It kind of gives you a buff rather than a body on the board.
But you need to be making sure you are playing enough rush minions, right?
Yeah, imagine if Woodcutter's Axe actually gave you a 2/1 rush minion. That would be interesting. That would be much more powerful. But
that would be too strong because you'd be able to kill something for
4 on the second turn. Yeah, that would be really good. That would be way too good. But Woodcutter's Axe, even though we're kind of lamenting about the other possible ways it could have been done, I think Woodcutter's Axe is going to be a pretty powerful card. That's definitely going to help push this Tempo Warrior that they are pushing Tempo Warrior by printing a lot of these good cards.
Tempo Rush Warrior.
Yeah, but they're all tempo oriented, right? Darius Crowley, Militia Commander, Woodcutter's Axe. If we find 1 or 2 maybe other rush minions, then I definitely think Woodcutter's Axe will be very strong. Otherwise, if there's enough other good ways for Warrior to gain tempo, it could be a good tempo deck. Importantly, this is also 2 mana, so no Keleseth in your tempo Warrior. Keleseth with the rush minions is pretty strong. Maybe the one kind of thing that could push Woodcutter's Axe out of that deck if Keleseth is something that you want to put in that deck.
Yeah, it's always about compromise, right?
Yeah. And important, I think, that they printed it in this slot rather than maybe in a different mana slot with a different attack and durability. Okay, so I think we have 1 card left for today, and it's a neutral card, Ravencaller. Ravencaller is a 3 mana... Sorry? Okay, I think we seem to have...
1? Battle Cry?
Yeah, okay, so Ravencaller is a 3 mana 2/1 with Battle Cry. Add 2 random 1-cost minions to your hand. It is a common. So 3 mana 2/1. That's really weak on the board. 2/1 drops in your hand. That's not particularly good, right?
That's not good.
No.
That is not what you want to be doing. The fact that it gives you 2 1-mana minions. The problem is, a lot of these 1 mana cost minions are first of all not very high impact a lot of the times. Also, they're very easy to kill with a lot of hero powers and pings and things. So, I mean, realistically, how much stats are you getting? I mean, what the average stats of a 1 cost minion is probably 2/1.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're getting 6 stats. I mean, you're basically getting what six.
I mean, you're getting 3 1-drops essentially with Ravenclaw because Ravenclaw's body itself is that of a 1-drop.
So I mean, you're spending 5 mana to get 2 1-drops and a 2/1.
Yeah, that seems...
doesn't seem like that's what you want to be doing, right?
Yeah, so I mean, this does kind of bring us to the question of, is there any deck in which you would want these 1-drops? And Quest Hunter?
Yeah.
I mean, you get 2 cards towards completing your quest. That can be kind of powerful.
Yeah, but is that too slow? I mean, is that
Probably
good enough?
I definitely think, once again, that deck is a lot more... wants to be more aggressive, and Ravenclaw doesn't really help that. It does definitely give you cards towards that.
Aggressive.
No. So I mean, that's maybe somewhere we could see Ravenclaw play. And you know, with the Tux manga, there's synergy there too. But Hunter is really the only place we see any kind of synergy for Ravenclaw. I don't think the bodies you're getting are worth it in any kind of tempo. In any kind of token deck either.
Yeah, because 3 mana 2/1 is just too underpowered.
Yeah. Okay, so that is all the cards we have for you today. There will be lots more coming before the releases, or before the spoilers end and the set is released, as well as once we have all the cards, we will be doing set-by-set reviews, looking at some deck lists as well. So make sure you tune in for that. You can find out when that goes up, when we're doing those, and all of that by subscribing on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter at PandemoniaZA for Pandemonia over there, and at Dib_gaming for myself. So yeah, be sure to check us out there. You can also, if you think we've got any of these cards horribly wrong or we've missed any synergies, let us know. Otherwise, we will be back again soon for the next video in our impressions video, which hopefully we will do sooner with less cards and a little bit shorter. So make sure to tune in there. Cheerio.
Cheers.